Welcome to Grandma's Tales audiobook. Today I have a beautiful, soothing bedtime story for toddlers and preschoolers. Perfect for these warm, quiet evenings as the school year ends and the long, sunny days of summer begin to whisper through the trees. Close your eyes, little ones, and let us visit a hidden world in the heart of the grassy bank. Have you ever wondered what happens beneath the roots of the tallest flowers when the afternoon sun warms the earth? Today, a tiny wood mouse named Mrs. Tittlemouse found something completely unexpected in her beautifully swept hallway. This story will lead us to the quietest, most peaceful place in the world, where the soft rustle of summer leaves puts everyone to sleep, and where sweet dreams come easily. It is a story about a very tidy little mouse, a beautiful summer day, and the magic of a clean, cozy home. Mrs. Tittlemouse was a tiny, elegant wood mouse with soft brown fur, a pristine white belly, oversized dark eyes, and a neat, tiny pink nose. She lived in a wonderful long bank underneath a hedge of wild, fragrant roses. It was the time of year when the schools of the forest were closing. The young birds were learning to fly, and the gentle warmth of early summer filled the air. Her house was not a simple hole in the dirt. It was a magnificent, winding maze of tiny tunnels, long, narrow corridors, and beautifully carved wooden doors. There were yards and yards of sandy passages, all leading to different secret chambers. There was a kitchen, a parlour, a pantry, and a beautiful soft bedroom where she slept every night under a soft, fluffy white blanket. In her tiny paw, Mrs. Tittlemouse always held her most precious item, her special reminder of home, a small, glistening broom made of bound heather twigs and a silver thread. With this broom, she worked from early morning until the sun began to sink. She was terribly, wonderfully tidy. She spent her days sweeping the sandy floors, wiping the polished wooden roots that crossed her ceilings, and dusting the tiny moss cushions that served as chairs. But on this particular morning, as the golden summer light streamed through the topmost root, a sense of urgency filled her heart. The longest day of the year was approaching, marking the beautiful end of spring and the very beginning of summer. And the old grandfather clock, made of a hollowed acorn shell, was ticking steadily on her mantelpiece. Tick-tock, tick-tock. The clock reminded her that her great summer cleaning had to be finished before the sun touched the horizon. For that was the evening she loved to sit by her window and enjoy the peaceful, quiet air. Yet keeping a house clean in a busy hedge at the start of summer is a very difficult thing. The sand from the corridors kept shifting, and small visitors always seemed to forget to wipe their feet. As Mrs. Tittlemouse stood in her long hallway, holding her tiny heather broom, she heard a strange, soft rustling noise coming from the pantry. Scritch, scratch, rustle. She walked slowly down the sandy passage, her pristine white belly brushing against the clean ground, her oversized dark eyes looking carefully into the shadows. She opened the pantry door, and there, to her great surprise, she saw a little beetle with a shiny green coat sitting right on her beautifully polished shelf. "Twitch, snap, click," said the little beetle, waving its tiny antennae in the warm air. Mrs. Tittlemouse shook her head, her neat pink nose twitching with disapproval. "My dear Beetle," she said in a soft, polite whisper, "your boots are covered in garden soil, and you are leaving small dark spots on my clean shelf. This is no place for a beetle at the end of the school term. The sunny meadows are waiting for you outside." She took her small heather broom and gently, carefully guided the shiny green beetle out through the back door, closing it with a soft door slams. "Ah," she sighed with relief and went back to her parlour to dust her tiny acorn cup collection. The acorn clock kept ticking. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Time was moving, and the summer sun was climbing higher into the sky. But just as she wiped the third little cup, she heard another sound. This time it was a loud, cheerful buzzing noise coming from the direction of her soft bedroom. Bzz, hum, bzz. Mrs. Tittlemouse scurried down the corridor, her soft brown fur catching the warm rays of light filtering through the earth. She pushed open her bedroom door, and there, sitting comfortably on her blanket, was an old friend, but an uninvited one. Mr. Thomas Thumb, the big, fuzzy bumblebee. He was wearing a thick coat of yellow and black velvet, and his wings were vibrating softly, scattering tiny glowing dust particles into the air. With him were two small moss bees, who were looking around the room with great curiosity. "Bzzz! Good morning, Mrs. Tittlemouse," buzzed Mr. Thomas Thumb, settling himself down on the soft bed. "The summer weather is beautiful. The fields are full of clover, and we are looking for a nice, shady place to rest our wings." Mrs. Tittlemouse looked at her beautiful blanket, and then at her small heather broom. "Dear me, Mr. Thomas Thumb," she said, her oversized dark eyes wide with worry. "You are very welcome to the garden, but your coat is full of sticky yellow pollen. Look at my lovely floor. It is covered in yellow dust. And where are the other bees? I can hear a loud humming in the pantry." Mr. Thomas Thumb only buzzed softly and cleaned his face with his front leg. Mrs. Tittlemouse knew she had to act quickly before the acorn clock struck noon. She walked to the pantry, and indeed she found a whole nest of moss bees building a small honeycomb in an empty flower pot. The air was thick with the sweet, warm smell of summer honey. But for Mrs. Tittlemouse, it was a terrible mess. She did not like to be rude, especially not during these joyful days when summer was beginning, so she spoke to them with great kindness. "Little bees," the sun is shining brightly outside, and the big red clover flowers in the meadow are bursting with sweet juice. It is much too nice a day to stay hidden in a dark, sandy pantry. The moss bees hummed thoughtfully, and slowly, one by one, they flew out of the pantry window, leaving behind only the faint, sweet scent of summer. But Mrs. Tittlemouse's day was far from over. The acorn clock struck 12. Dong, dong, dong. Half the day was gone, and her corridors still needed a final sweep. She took her tiny broom of heather twigs and began to work with great care, her soft brown fur moving gracefully as she swept the loose yellow pollen out into the sunshine. Suddenly, a deep, heavy sound echoed from the front door. Thump, wiggle, plop. It was a much larger sound than a bee or a beetle. Mrs. Tittlemouse went to the front entrance, and there, trying to squeeze through her small, round doorway, was an old toad named Mr. Jackson. He was a large, wet toad with a mottled green and brown skin, big blinking eyes, and a wide, friendly mouth. He was wearing no shoes, and his big feet were covered in slippery, wet river mud. Thump, plop, splash, muttered Mr. Jackson, trying to pull his round tummy through the narrow passage. Good day to you, Mrs. Tittlemouse. The summer sun is very hot today, and my pond is growing warm. Your dark, sandy tunnels look wonderfully cool and refreshing. Mrs. Tittlemouse looked at his big, muddy footprints on her clean hallway and gasped softly. "Oh, Mr. Jackson, please take care. Your feet are very wet, and you are leaving puddles of mud all over my beautiful swept floor." Mr. Jackson did not mind at all. He sat down heavily on a small moss cushion, which instantly squished under his weight. "No matter, my dear, no matter," he said, looking around with a cheerful grin. "Do you happen to have a little drop of honey tea on this warm summer day? I am quite thirsty after my long walk from the river." Mrs. Tittlemouse, wanting to keep her guest happy but away from her tidy bedroom, hurried to the kitchen. "I do not have honey tea, Mr. Jackson," she called out, "but I have some lovely cool water from the morning dew." When she returned with a tiny acorn cup filled with clear dew, she found Mr. Jackson exploring her corridors. He was too big for the rooms, and his large shoulders rubbed against the sandy walls, causing small showers of sand to fall to the floor. Tick-tock, tick-tock, warned the acorn clock. The afternoon was slipping away, and the sun was beginning its slow journey down, painting the roots above with shades of orange and gold. Mrs. Tittlemouse knew she had to find a way to help her friend Mr. Jackson find a place that suited him better, so she could finish her summer cleaning. She looked at her small heather broom, her favourite little tool, and had a wonderful idea. "Mr. Jackson," she said softly, her oversized dark eyes shining, "just outside my back door, under the shadow of the great burdock leaf, there is a beautiful, deep puddle of cool water. The summer sun never touches it, and it is the most peaceful spot in the whole hedge. Mr. Jackson's big eyes blinked with delight. A cool puddle under a burdock leaf. That sounds like absolute perfection on an evening like this. He pushed himself up from the moss cushion, leaving a wet mark that Mrs. Tittlemouse knew she could clean later, and happily waddled out through the back door. Plop, plop, splash, he went, straight into the cool, dark shade of the magnificent green leaf. Now the house was empty at last, and the golden hour of the summer evening had arrived. The clock was ticking closer to the final hour of sunset. Mrs. Tittlemouse tied her little apron tightly around her waist, took her tiny broom of heather twigs and silver thread, and began the grandest cleaning of all. She swept the kitchen until the floor was as smooth as glass. She wiped the pantry shelves until they gleamed in the soft light. She smoothed out her blanket in the bedroom, fluffing it up until it looked like a soft white cloud. She used a tiny sponge to wash away every single muddy footprint left by Mr. Jackson, and she used a dry leaf to brush away the remaining yellow pollen from the bumblebees. Her soft brown fur was neat, her pristine white belly was spotless, and her neat pink nose twitched with pure happiness. Finally, just as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm, sleepy amber glow through her tiny windows, the acorn clock stopped its urgent ticking and began a soft, slow chime. The great summer cleaning was done. The house was perfectly quiet, logical, and beautiful. Every room smelled of fresh sand, dry moss, and the faint, sweet scent of summer roses. The next evening, to celebrate the beautiful, long summer days and the end of her hard work, Mrs. Tittlemouse decided to invite her little friends for a party. But she was a very clever little mouse. She did not invite them inside her small tunnels. Instead, she set up a beautiful tiny table outside, right on the soft grass under the fragrant rose hedge, where the warm summer breeze could blow freely. The table was made of a smooth, flat stone, and it was covered with tiny sweet treats. There were acorn cups filled with sweet elderberry juice, small plates made of rose petals holding wild strawberry seeds, and tiny cakes made of pollen and dew. Mrs. Tittlemouse sat at the head of the table, her soft brown fur beautifully brushed, her oversized dark eyes reflecting the warm, golden light of the summer stars. Mr. Thomas Thumb came, looking very grand in his clean velvet coat, and he did not bring any loose dust this time. He buzzed a beautiful, soft summer melody that made all the little creatures feel peaceful and warm. Even Mr. Jackson came, waddling over from his cool burdock leaf. He sat on a nice damp stone next to the table, looking incredibly content. He could not fit his mouth into the tiny acorn cups, so Mrs. Tittlemouse kindly offered him his juice in a beautiful deep snail shell, which he drank with great joy. Everyone was happy, everyone was safe, and the garden was filled with a deep, calm peace. Mrs. Tittlemouse looked at her beautiful, clean home under the bank, and then at her happy friends enjoying the warm summer night. She knew that with kindness, patience, and a little bit of clever planning, there was room in the beautiful world for everyone to enjoy the summer together, each in their own special way. The stars above the hedge began to twinkle softly, signalling the start of the beautiful, long summer holidays. The little mouse curled up in her soft dandelion bed, holding her tiny heather broom close, and closed her dark eyes, listening to the gentle hum of the night. The end. Thank you for listening to this peaceful story on Grandma's Tales audiobook. As the school year fades into the beautiful, warm days of summer, may your nights be filled with quiet rest and sweet, golden dreams. For more audiobooks for preschoolers or 3-year-olds, stay on our channel, subscribe, and have a wonderfully peaceful sleep, little ones. Good night.